Welcome to Badger Beer Hour. I am here with my esteemed colleagues, Chris Drosner, Andy Huffman, and Landon Tierney. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Great. Time to get into the news.
Hey, Chris, let's get right into the news, huh?
Yeah. So for another month, in what's been a kind of a long year of this, we don't have any news on the sale of Ale Asylum, but we do have a very sad item to pass along related to Ale Asylum. Their longtime general manager, Jillian Swope, passed away unexpectedly on December 4th at the age of 35. She was the friendly, colorful-haired woman you probably knew if you stopped in even occasionally. Her tenure went all the way back to their previous location where Carbon 4 is now. Jillian was a native of South Bend, Indiana, and a UW-Madison psychology graduate. In her obituary, her family described her this way. Her deeply empathetic nature fostered her pursuit of understanding human psychology. She not only wanted to know what, but also understand why. Her shoulders were always steady and her heart wide open for her family and friends. In a Facebook post, Ale Asylum said she had an ethereal magic about her that manifested not only in her love for crystals and stones, Mother Earth, and her Irish heritage, but more prominently in her fervent approach to life. She was an animal lover, and Ale Asylum invited Jillian's beer friends to donate to the Heartland Farm Sanctuary Animal Rescue at the link that is scrolling along the bottom of the screen there. A funeral service will be held Saturday afternoon at Gunderson East Funeral Home in Monona, and our hearts go out to all of her loved ones, especially to her fiance, Ale Asylum co-founder Otto Dilbaum. There's really no way to follow that, but I'm going to do my best to just kind of shift gears here to some more conventional news. Okay, first, we've got a new brewery that's already open. This is Hop Yard Ale Works, which opened in mid-November on Appleton's north side. They say they offer small batch ales alongside wood-fired pizza. That would be pizza. It's like pizza with peaches on it. It's very unusual. Wood-fired pizza, no peaches, in a relaxed atmosphere. Their 20 taps so far have been pouring a nice mix, I should say, of guest taps. Looks like some pretty well curated beers on there, which I think bodes well for the beer, for their own beer. And this weekend they'll be tapping their first 3 beers and a hard seltzer. Unfortunately, no details. They haven't provided any details beyond that right now. The brewery is owned by Oliver and Amy Boehm, who were previously in the auto business. And my dog just came in. Hey, buddy. Okay. Previously in the auto business, and they said in a Facebook post that they are embarking on not a midlife crisis, but a midlife adventure. I am not positive of this, but that last name Behm, I think that's Don Boehm. Was that a Madison dealership for a long time? I'm not sure. I think I recognize that name, and they said they were in the auto business. So I don't know. Could be a new leaf here. So Hop Yard Ale Works launching its first beers this weekend.
Very nice. I'm going to start calling it Midlife Adventure. I like that better than Crisis.
Yeah.
Right. And beer and wood fire.
Everything's an adventure because you can't remember anything.
That's right.
How I feel this week.
And beer and wood fire pizza is always a good combo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good place to start, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So we'll look ahead a bit. We have a brewery which is up north for you guys, but just east of where I am.
Yeah, Medford. Medford's getting what I believe is its first brewery next year. Lake 11 Brewing is taking over a vacant furniture store on Medford's Main Street. The owner is Luke Gasek. who told a local reporter last week that he's hoping to open next spring. That story didn't have a whole lot of substance on the beer. He does have a brewmaster, but the Medford Star News story did not name that person. And I'm just a reporter here, but spring seems like a pretty optimistic timetable for a brewery that hasn't begun remodeling a furniture store yet. But we'll see. Sometime next year, keep an eye out for Lake 11 Brewing in Medford.
Will do.
Really cool. Really
Yeah.
cool.
All right, Chris, it was a bit of a light month for news, right? This month we didn't have a whole lot.
Yeah, we're kind of casting around for things here this month, but yeah, I got a couple little nuggets. How about this?
All right, yeah.
One of my favorite Milwaukee breweries, Supermoon Beer Company, is moving forward with its plan to build out its tap room. So far, owner Rob Brennan has been aging and blending wild beer in big wooden barrels in the basement of his little building in Bayview, and doing bottle releases and kind of limited pop-up draft that started this summer. One of those little pop-ups and bottle sales is this weekend. If you want to check it out on the Google, just Google Supermoon, one word, to check that out. But Rob recently closed on a loan to build out the tap room, which is kind of the second stage of the business plan. So he's starting with he'll be continuing doing those wild ales and really blending. Really, it's a blending operation and aging, and doing all kinds of interesting stuff with mixed fermentation and some fruited beers as well. He did a fresh hop, like a fresh hop. I guess it was kind of a farmhouse ale saison type deal. So talk to this guy and you come away really impressed with, and kind of excited about wild beers and kind of brewing in general. But this new kind of turn for Supermoon is a neighborhood spot where he's going to have mostly sessionable kind of traditional style beers. He talked a lot about like English styles, like milds and porter and very traditional things, not kind of laying off the hops a little bit. We'll see. He's very open to kind of what people want, but I think he thinks that these beers can kind of strike a chord in the neighborhood and be a destination for the kind of place where you just post up and have couple two tree beers, and he's hoping for a soft opening around Memorial Day if everything goes well. And I think guys that we'll be hearing a little bit more from Rob himself on a future Bad Badger Beer Hour, because he's, like I said, he's a very interesting guy to talk to. Yep. And one quick thing in the domain of big beer that y'all might have already noticed. You guys remember those awesome champagne style bottles of Miller High Life? This big, beautiful, clear 750 milliliters. Yeah. So cool for like parties and holiday feasts and whatnot. Okay. Yep. Well, we don't get those this year. Molson Coors isn't doing them. Company rep confirmed. And the company they're not ruling out doing them in future years, but this year they've kind of been shrinking their SKUs, cutting back a few a few of the brands and I think consolidating a few packaging options. So that's kind of one context. Nobody said that this is why they're doing it. They just said they're not doing it. But and then the other thing is that last year there were a lot of those on sale for like $2 in January. So I think it might have led to this decision. So this one's in hibernation until maybe next year. We'll see. Be nice. I think it's really cool. I'm a big fan of High Life, and I think that's part of it is the aesthetics, the bottle, the label. It's and these bottles really kind of ramp that up turn up the volume on that to 11. And that, ladies and germs, is the Badger Beer Hour news for December.
All right.
All right. Tonight, I am pleased to welcome by the way, we didn't really mention this at the top, but hope everybody's safe and sound tonight. There's some pretty heavy wind and weather blowing through Wisconsin right now. And so everybody stay safe and, batten down the hatches there. Okay, with that out of the way, I'm pleased to be joined tonight by Mark Garthwaite. He is the executive director of the Wisconsin Brewers Guild, which is the most important thing happening in Wisconsin beer right now, right, Mark?
It is
There you go.
every day.
All right. So
Every day. Cheers.
well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, Mark. Can you tell us, give us a quick version of what the Brewers Guild is?
The Wisconsin Brewers Guild, the trade association that advocates for the independent craft breweries of Wisconsin. So we do a lot of advocacy work inside the state capitol in the last few years. That's kind of been the priority. But our goal is to advocate for them in many ways: promote, market, be a resource for breweries, and also for people who have interests in the brewing industry in Wisconsin.
Awesome. So I didn't find a lot of beer news this month. Do you have anything going on out there that you think might be of interest to our audience?
Well, I think we had a lot of successful Black Friday release beers, so we're coming off the Black Friday release beer high, and now we're all just kind of hanging out waiting for the next big release dates. I don't know when that is. I guess we all have continuous special releases now. So
yeah.
No, I guess most of the big news in the industry is probably things that you've heard a lot about. Is like one of the things is the issue on Can-mageddon, I guess is what we can call it. The problem that a lot of small brewers are having getting cans, aluminum cans.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? What the issue is?
Sure.
I know this stems from a single manufacturer, right? Which is a near monopoly on the can game.
Yeah. So there are basically three major aluminum can suppliers in the United States. Ball being the biggest one, and craft breweries actually in terms of the total can supply. In terms of the amount that they use, probably only like 3 or 4% of the total amount of cans produced. So if you think of it in those terms, you're at the bottom of the totem pole as far as priority goes. I think we already knew pre-pandemic that there was kind of a shift, a lot of breweries shifting toward aluminum cans. And it wasn't just in the beer industry. It was a lot of, the arrival of hard seltzers, the little skinny cans that those tend to come in. Bottled waters have been trying to shift away from plastic and into more sustainable aluminum cans. So there's just been this massive ramp up in demand for cans that preceded the pandemic. Basically the pandemic just kind of accelerated that in a pretty dramatic way, right? So suddenly bars and taverns and restaurants are shut down. Your options are basically going to package stores to buy your beer. So that massive shift toward cans that a lot of breweries had already been making suddenly becomes accelerated. And then the demand is so high because there are so few producers of aluminum cans. So it's basically just a simple matter of a lack of supply. The three major at least with Ball, they are adding manufacturing capability, but it's going to be a long time before that comes online. The other factor there is, of course, Coca-Cola, Anheuser-Busch, InBev, those are the big buyers of cans, and it's a pretty safe bet that they'll be prioritized over small brewers.
Yeah.
I just see in the comments too is like minimum orders have ramped up, and that's absolutely right. So Ball has recently sent out a lot of letters to a bunch of brewers just basically saying, we can't do one container load per order anymore. If you're going to order, you got to order 5.
Right.
So you're talking 5 semi-loads of cans.
This is really where it's pinching the breweries, right? Is that they might order one truckload it's something like
I should know the answer to that, but I don't.
I mean, it's a pretty big amount of hundreds of barrels, I think is what fits in a single truckload of cans. And and most of those would probably these days most of them would be unlabeled, so that they can be shrink wrap labeled or sticker labeled with whatever brand it goes on. Now they're they're requiring 5 times that. So
correct.
I mean, so I mean,
To add to that
for it, they don't have, that there's so much capital upfront investment there. So or not capital, but the upfront investment that's going to take a long time to bleed out 5 truckloads of cans, and where are you going to put them? So
right.
what's happened with small brewers and in this environment?
Yeah, I mean, so far from most who I've heard from seem to be okay. They're kind of helping each other out. It's we're lucky we're in a very collaborative industry. I'm not hearing a lot of real hardships at the moment, but there are a few that have to scramble. In reality, there really isn't much of an alternative until that manufacturing capacity is expanded, and it's just going to be a while before they come online. The other factor in the slowdown is they don't just make it I would love to actually tour the manufacturing facilities to see how they retool, because at the beginning of the pandemic, it was really hard to get Crowler cans, the big 32-ounce cans. What they do is they basically manufacture one size of can at a time. So it's not like they just have all these different lines of different size cans being produced. They're going to make Crowlers, and then they got to retool to make 12 ounces, and then they retool to make 16 ounces. Yeah. And then there's the cans that are pre-printed as well. So in general, I think if you're a purchaser of pre-printed cans, you're probably a bigger size brewery and you're okay. That seems to not be the case right now. It's, pretty good sized breweries, mid-size regional type breweries are now finding themselves to be in a pretty big pinch, because they tend to use pre-printed cans. So when the supply is constrained like that, it's pretty tough for them to prioritize each individual brewery in those regards to give them their printed cans. So that the other factor is that price tag on those cans has gone up north of 30%.
Wow.
And that's going to start hitting consumer pockets pretty soon too.
When so I mean, most of the articles that I had read had kind of cast this as primarily like a size issue. Like, okay, you can't get you have to get the 5 truckloads. Like, how are you going to even do that? But it's not even that's not even the main issue. Sometimes it's just like you can't get cans until whenever.
Correct. Yeah, and there's really not much that can be done about it right now. So, and you think about this too. It's on premise, so bars and taverns, the keg sales, it's kind of coming back, but not really. So that hasn't really been alleviated by a COVID ramp down, which isn't really ramping down like we need it to, but there's still a lot of people that just aren't comfortable going out and hanging out in the bar and having a couple of beers. Mm-hmm. So those on-premise sales just aren't bouncing back fast enough to kind of take the pressure off of that pretty steep demand. So it's a tough situation. I'd known a few breweries that had, were in that phase of transitioning from bottles into cans, and basically kind of had to go backwards and just keep the bottling lines running. So
yeah, is bottling? Are bottles in short supply now too?
I'm not hearing anything on bottles. I mean, the things that were really hitting breweries were at the beginning of the pandemic was CO2. I don't know if anybody really heard about that. When pandemic hit and suddenly nobody was driving anywhere, all of the ethanol plants that would produce ethanol, those ethanol plants provide about 40% of the CO2 that's used in carbonated beverages. So the lack of fuel put on pressure, so when you go to the pump, you see, it contains 10% ethanol, right? The oil, gas and oil producers were kind of pushing back on, hey, look, we're really taking a hit here because nobody's buying gas. we would really like to not have to put ethanol in there because, otherwise we're in a world of hurt. So the decrease in the production of ethanol meant that there wasn't as much CO2 being produced.
Okay.
Very problematic. Later in the pandemic, you remember when the price of lumber went up. A lot of things that breweries buy and ship out their doors goes on wooden pallets. So the price of wooden pallets became problematic. And then the same thing for wood pulp that would be used to make 6-pack carriers and all the packaging material that beer goes into. So it's just this cascading problem of supply chain issues that have really revealed how vulnerable we are when we have cataclysmic world events like this.
The Brewers Association, the national trade group similar to the Guild in Wisconsin, put out an article about the can thing, talking about it as a what was it, a customer reduction plan or something was the way they framed it, and suggesting that this is essentially a play to, instead of having accounts with 160 breweries in Wisconsin, that they would have an account with 4 distributors in Wisconsin.
Correct.
And so it's essentially creating another tier of a wholesaler, which of course would increase the costs, aside from the raw increases in costs, that would, that there would be a markup from the middleman there.
Yes, I believe they were referring to Ball was referring to them as preferred distribution partners, but we think of them as just basically as can brokers, and they're basically 4 can brokers that Ball was going to work with. So they're just going. I mean, to an extent, it kind of makes sense because it just kind of alleviates the responsibility of Ball to kind of decide who gets what, because you start dipping into not really antitrust issues, but and we can talk about antitrust in a little bit because that's another issue that has come up. It keeps them out of that, so that way there are brokers that are handling the divvying up of what's available and managing all of that. So to some extent, it makes sense.
Okay, that's not the only supply issue affecting the beer industry right now.
That's correct.
I believe you had alluded to something else that's coming down the horizon.
Yeah, the barley crop yields were abysmal this year. This is another one of those issues where climate change, where Greg pointed out that we're all going to have our roofs blown off tonight. It's 60 some degrees here in the middle of December. These strange weather patterns have profound effects on the crops that are used to produce products that you buy, including beer. So barley yields, I believe the numbers I saw for United States malting barley crop yields were the lowest they've been since 1900. And that's not a good thing. So a lot more of the malting barley that is used in breweries is grown in Canada, but Canada saw similar drops as well. So it's kind of a dire situation in terms of being able to have reliable sources of malted barley that you would easily just continue making the beers that you always make. Now we're going to be relying on maltsters who are really good at this kind of thing, thankfully, trying to compensate by blending with some of what is left from last year's crop and other imported barleys from other parts of the world. But it's, what was harvested was pretty low quality compared to what you would really need to have a stable malting barley supply. So brewers will have to get a little creative, and it's not the end of the world here, but they're going to have to pay very close attention to the barley that they're using and think differently about some of the beers that they're making as well.
So, I mean, are there certain malt varieties, and just for everybody, I mean, like, we most often we talk about hop varieties, but there are just as many varieties of malted barley, not just from and that brings in the species of barley, where it's grown, maybe not species, but the like
The varieties.
you know,
It's similar to
to
hops in that there are varieties, and
and
for
then
anybody
also
who
the way
grows
that
up in
it's processed.
Wisconsin, there are different seed corn varieties too. So it's the
Yep,
same
right.
same for any kind of cereal crop like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, typically they do. There's actually a malt and barley lab in on the UW-Madison campus where they do pilot malting, in advance to try and do testing on barley varieties that they think that would perform well out in the field. So that kind of testing is going on regularly. But again, with the massive changes in climate patterns, that's going to be even more of a challenge going forward.
Yeah. When do we expect this issue to start having effects? I mean, is that already would this kind of lack of barley have already pushed into the production system at this point? Or
Yeah, well, it's probably beginning. I don't have an answer that is authoritative for you on that. And now I'm curious to know how fast that makes it into the stream. But I think raising the awareness on this is the method for maltsters to give their brewers a heads up that, listen, guys, it's the spec sheets that you're going to be seeing are going to look a lot different, and you're going to have to account for that. So. But as you know, brewers are very creative individuals, and they'll make I don't want to say lemonade out of lemons, but they'll make beer out of barley is what they'll do. So
Right.
they're creative and just they'll manage in one way or another. But some of the flagships might be a challenge for them to maintain that same.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, if people, I wonder if that if there's just not that version of the barley variety that has, or the malt variety that has been in this beer for 10 years.
Sure.
It's just not available. They're going to have to try to kind of patch together something that is similar in flavor and proteins and sugar content and all that stuff that makes that malt brings to the table, and kind of probably cross the fingers, right?
Yeah, I think so. The good news, though, I think is from what I understand, the crop in Europe, and there's a lot of European barley, continental barley, and from Europe that comes into the United States, and in the beers we brew, it sounds like they had a pretty good crop over there. So I think there's at least some stability. It's not a worldwide problem.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then related to hops, we had a lot of wildfires out west.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of hop yards that suffered smoke taint, is what they referred to, because
right.
you could some of that smoke would carry over into the hops. I don't think that's catastrophic in any way, but that caused a few problems here and there.
Mm-hmm. I guess kind of shifting gears a little bit, we've been kind of talking about future things a lot, and you touched on this a little bit, but what are you hearing from brewers and members as far as how this year has been for them? We've been talking a lot on the show month after month about supporting local breweries and kind of the razor's edge. I think that we believe that many of them were walking or on, mostly last year. But I think one of the messages that we've been hearing, or that I've been hearing from brewery people that I talk to, and kind of just out there in the beer world, is that it's not over. That lasting damage was done in 2020, and 2021 really needed to be a big year, or at least a normal year, to kind of heal those wounds or whatever. How are breweries seeing this year, and how does that all kind of relate to pandemic and the state of the business right now?
It's it's not great, but better in general. I mean, the fact that we didn't really lose that many breweries, at least in Wisconsin, I think is a relief. but that said, like I think there were probably a lot of employees that that were lost, probably haven't been replaced. There are, I think, a number of breweries I've talked to that years ago were finally relieved to be able to hire more people, so they had more time to actually live a life instead of live 24 hours a day at their brewery, or back to living 24 hours a day at their brewery to keep things going. So it's just the work is as hard as it's ever been. And to the great credit of folks like you who have been, championing the small breweries and support your local breweries. The customers have been really good. They've stepped up. We have loyal fans of a lot of our breweries, and hats off to every one of them for prioritizing their local craft breweries. But yeah, it's not great. It's better. But it's still just clinging to hope that, we kind of see the back end of this pandemic get put behind us as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little discouraging now to see some of what we're about to experience now with Omicron variants. But I'm boosted. I hope you're boosted. Everybody get boosted so we all can go back out to the breweries.
Yeah, right on. Is one of the stories that we already alluded to that we've been talking about a lot this year, because it's been kind of ongoing, is the Ale Asylum situation.
Yeah.
You're in Madison, I know, and I don't want to. I'm not asking you to speak out of turn here, but
I can't. So,
what's your read on any? Is there any deeper meaning to, or kind of symbolic meaning in that situation, or is this just kind of one? I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah. Without getting into detail, I don't think it's a systemic canary in the coal mine kind of situation. As there are so many breweries around this state that have very different business models, that had very different goals and projections for what their futures would look like. And I think it's just a unique business situation for Ale Asylum that it's not catastrophic. It just wasn't meant to play out in a world that had, when they moved into that facility. I mean, it's a great facility, and they can make a lot of great beer out of there. But for the volume, I think that was necessary to meet their projections, when you had all these new breweries popping up, that changed the calculus quite a lot. So I'm confident and hopeful that there will be a good resolution for that brewery. They'll hopefully, I feel hopeful that they'll stay local. They'll stay as the same recognizable Ale Asylum that we know and love. So
that's definitely been the messaging from them as well. I've been told that repeatedly.
I think it's reliable information. So yes.
And I don't think, right.
As always, there are little legal issues that need to be worked out in order to make these kinds of things happen. It's just, alcohol beverages, as always, are always a complicated issue when you're trying to make acquisitions and things like that.
Yeah, and they are complicated because of regulation. Usually.
Yes.
Have there been any? What's been the what's been happening in the Capitol with beer and breweries lately? Anything going on?
I alluded to this a little bit earlier when we were talking about the can monopoly kind of potential. One of the things that the Biden administration did a few months back was the president issued an executive order directing agencies to seek remedies, or I'm drawing a blank on the exact language, but basically to address anti-competitive and basically monopoly situations in various sectors of our economy. And one of them that was singled out was promoting competition in the beer, wine, and spirits industry. So what the process that kicked off was submitting comments to the Treasury from public comments. Anyone could submit comments, which naturally every industry member in beverage alcohol had something to say. And if you're really interested in knowing a lot about what's going on out there in the beer world in terms of interactions between producers and wholesalers, carve out a couple of weeks to read the 800 some comments that were submitted there. The Brewers Association submitted comments, and 48 of our state guilds, including Wisconsin, signed off on those comments as well. But a lot of what what we would hope to see come out of here is an examination of what effectively becomes a duopoly when you have just two giant beer companies and distribution networks that essentially cater to those two large producers. Especially when you add in a lot of the franchise laws that are protecting the distribution arrangements. You know, if you're essentially in duopolies, or you know, can't quite say it's monopolies, but it impedes competition in the beer industry and really makes it a lot harder for small breweries to get their product to market efficiently. That's a big deal. So Treasury is they're overdue on when they were supposed to issue a response or recommendations. I don't blame them for being overdue, because there were a substantial number of comments that were submitted there. So I think it'll be a really interesting thing to watch going forward.
Nice.
And then at the state you asked, I mean, it's you know, this is a very complex legislative environment, as you probably know.
That's one way to put it.
So, you know, in some ways, I guess no news is good news. I'll just leave it at that. We're busy making sure that elected officials know how important small breweries are to their communities.
I mean, in the last several years, you've been playing mostly defense, right? I mean, this is not like, hey, we could really use some legislative relief in this area. It's been, attempts to, mess with production licenses, liquor taproom licenses, all kinds of things. So, I mean, yeah, I guess no news is good news, right? If you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yes, we've had to play a lot of defense. I think where we've established our seat at the table now, which is all we've ever asked for. We've only asked to be at the table when these discussions occur, so we can avoid conflict. The conflict is not good for anybody, and certainly not for small breweries that just don't quite have the resources themselves to be very influential. Collectively, we can be, and we've made a lot of inroads. It's just, these are complicated things to understand, even for those of us who are in the industry, but to communicate that to legislators and smart people like you. Okay, I got the reaction I wanted. There we go.
Most of the time, I just text you and say, "What the hell is this?" Does this
matter? Exactly. Yeah, and then it's you can't explain it in a text message, but it's complicated, and I think we've gotten to the point now where we have policymakers saying, "Okay, I get it. I understand where you're coming from."
Yeah.
So that puts us in a very different position.
That's been an evolution over the last maybe 10 years or so that I've been covering this at this level, right?
Yeah, and what's for if you're kind of a political junkie, how long it takes to swing the pendulum on things like this. But it can be very frustrating if your business is affected by these things, that an acquisition or sale is thrown off course because of some quirky tied house law that really doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. Some of them do. Don't get me wrong. We wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it's in dire need of modernization, and that's been our goal from the beginning.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to just add about what's going on with Wisconsin breweries or the guild itself? I've got one quick one. Events have been a part of the guild
Yes.
in previous years. Obviously, been a weird couple of years. What's happening with that on that front in 2022?
Yeah, so I'm glad to say that. Yep, the Dell's Rare Barrel affair is we're hoping it comes back.
Okay,
we are planning as if it's going to happen. So like I said, I just get when I'm seeing news like on Omicron, it just gives me flashbacks to the pain of having to cancel those events and refund tickets. It was a very painful process, and I never want to have to do that again. So yes, we're planning as full steam ahead, and then the plan would be for Wisconsin Beer Lovers Fest to come back as well.
So, and Rare Barrel is in April.
It's at the end of April. It's going to be a little crazy because I think it's April 30th is the date, and then immediately after that is Craft Brewers Conference up in the Twin Cities this year. So it'll be kind of a little whirlwind for some of the brewers that are doing it, but it's a new venue. It'll be nearby. It'll be similar to the Swanborn Door, which was just a gorgeous facility. It's a similar type venue called Venaboo Hill. It's actually in Baraboo, but it's right next to Wisconsin Dells. So we're looking forward to having that back.
And then the Wisconsin Beer Lovers Festival is that still Father's Day weekend?
That would be the plan. It's just been a little bit gun shy on like getting too far down the road before having to realize that hey, maybe this isn't going to work out. But Bayshore would be the location, and it looks a little different than the last time we had the festival there. So it'll be kind of fun to give it a little makeover.
And that's an outdoor event. I've been to that multiple times, including with my dad.
Yeah,
pretty great.
Right.
So I would really recommend. There's food vendors there with all kinds of great food from around the state. I believe. Really good stuff. So definitely.
Yeah, Bo from South Shore Brewery brings the Whitefish sliders all the way down from Ashland.
Those are the ones that always have the big buzz.
Oh my, yeah, exactly. I think we should just do only Whitefish sliders, and it would be a gangbusters event. We'd be fine.
Awesome. All right, Mark. Anything else that you wanted to add before we sign out?
No, I mean, I hope everybody has a much better 2022 going forward. I think this has been a tough slog for a lot of us. I miss hanging out with all my rowdy beer friends. Let's get back to that. As soon as possible.
All right, sounds good. Mark Garthwaite of the Wisconsin Brewers Guild, thank you for joining us on Badger Beer Hour.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Hello. We are going to have normally we have a beer spotlight where we talk about one Wisconsin beer and we focus on that and we tell everybody about it. But we're going to do a year in review. So I'm going to bring on the rest of our cast here, and we are going to talk about our favorite beers that we had in the calendar year of 2020. Hopefully they are beers that were introduced to you, new-ish. But if it's something that the brewers brewed and you just loved it this year, we can definitely opine on that. Want to thank Mark again for a fantastic interview and giving us his time, and hopefully he sticks around for a couple beers afterwards. But I'm going to start with one of my favorites out of Sunshine Brewing in Lake Mills, Wisconsin, called the Ankle. It's a Belgian single. It's one of their flagship beers or regular beers. It's always on. It's light body, delicately balanced with fruit, spicy notes. Yes, but we are all generally on this cast fans of Belgians. And this is a really nice light one. I don't live anywhere near Lake Mills, so when I'm there, I'm normally either driving or with someone. So this is one I can just get a half pint of. Y'all know I love my flights or my half pints, and just sit out in the back balcony there at Sunshine, and and their carnitas and their burritos are really good. They give you pretty good, Chris. I'm telling you, man, good times. I'm always, don't see many Belgian singles that are packed, or not packed, but that give you a flavor punch, that aren't just light and ABV, but they actually have some flavor going on. So Anko is one of them. And then my next and last one is this banger from Giant Jones. Andy, thanks for the picture. I believe that's your picture, right?
Yep, you're welcome.
Great. The Golden Strong. They don't brew this one enough, in my opinion. And I've told Jessica this, and she rolls her eyes at me, and it's fine. But like, she's gonna hear it, because this is one of my favorite ones. I just remember it being big in the flavor category, big obviously with Giant Jones and the ABV, but so drinkable and so refreshing, and so Landon, I just see your head bobbing, man. Where you've had this one?
We had that when we did the podcast there, right, Andy?
Yep. Yeah, it was brand new. When we did that. So
we got it fresh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it evaporates out of their tasting room. And I went in there and I was like, Jessica, what's up? Like, can I have that strong? And she's like, oh, it's over at the one grocery store. And I'm like, what? Like, and she said we just sold out of it. And I think it's Star Grocery or something. And it's just one of these places in Madison that's very difficult to get to. And there's no parking. And it's a great walkable, local grocery, small, but it's not accessible that much to people who are just driving back and forth. So I love this beer. If you ever see it, I'm out of Giant Jones, go grab it. Chris, you next.
Oh, I'm next. All right. I do this every year, of course, for the column, and this year I have a lot of options. And one is one that the first one that I'm going to mention is one that I didn't write about. It flew really under the radar. It's a barley wine aged in a whole host of different types of barrels, bourbon, rum, rye, wine, maple syrup, and coffee barrels. So all kind, they like a maple syrup barrel, and then these barrel aged coffees that are aged in spirit barrels, but then coffee, and then it is it's called Priest. It's a barley wine, and it's called Priest, Prophet, and King from Carbon 4, and it's pretty wild. It's an intensely complex. I mean, like you think of what you want a barley wine to be, especially a barrel aged one, and then you kind of think about like all the all the different barrels, and this just ticks all those boxes. It's pretty amazing, and they're releasing it again this year around their the anniversary party, which is in I think like mid January. So I don't think the date's been set, but plan on that. It's a pricey beer. Obviously, they do it in 4-packs and on drafts. But man, it's one of those where I had one can of it, and I'm like, okay, I'm saving these because I got to write about this next year to make sure that people know about it. So that was one of them. Another one is a beer that I definitely did write about. The New Glarus Gyrator. Yeah, I did send you some of my photos of it on this, Greg. You didn't see those?
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. This is a fine picture.
Whoops.
So a lot of the things that we talked about with Mark about supply, kind of future proofing the supply chain for beer ingredients are very much present in this beer. Dan, I mean, and like I'm going to talk kind of about the story of this beer, because like Dan Carey basically, I don't want to say single-handedly kind of like brought the two key ingredients in this beer into commercial production, but he basically did do that. Like it's not a proprietary barley. and it's not a proprietary hop, but both of those ingredients were essentially unused and kind of dormant as far as commercial production goes. And he talked to brewers over in Germany, and they were like, these two are great, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna get these going, and this is like 10 years ago, and then all of that time developing these to a commercial scale, and then obviously the production and the malting and all that stuff. So it ended up being perfect for a great Doppelbock that they ended up just kind of aging for a way longer than you would normally need to age a Doppelbock, and then they just threw it in 6-packs for like what's the fat squirrel price? like $8 or $9 for
$8
a
or
6-pack?
$9, yeah.
And it's this intensely aged. I think it's just a spectacular beer. So that's another one. And then kind of a different, just totally in a different vein than both of those is Tomorrow River Helles from Central Waters. And I drink a lot of lagers. And I think this is the one that I probably bought the most of this year. It was a late spring, early summer release. And I don't know, man, sometimes you just want beer that tastes like beer. And this was it. It's light, Helles means light in German. And I don't know, like flavorful, little complex, but super crushable, and just a really nice beer that had a really nice price point, and it was available everywhere in the States. So those are my three.
Helles is not my favorite lager style, but that was a good one.
Yeah, I totally agree.
What's up, Landon?
I have one, and it's one that I've had before, but it's from Lazy Monk. So it's the Good King Wenceslas. And it's their Christmas beer, and I'm a big Christmas guy. So this
wait, Christmas beer guy or Christmas guy or both?
Christmas everything.
Everything. Okay.
I mean, if you move that microphone, I think we can see just how Christmassy you are.
I took them off.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. I had ornaments in my beard before. So this beer, when it first started out, Leosh at Lazy Monk was brewing on an old system, and it was a good beer, but it just didn't age very well, and it was a little harsh. So it had a very I liked it, but it had a very harsh flavor on the front end. Now I've had it this year, and it is smooth. And it's probably one of the best beers that I think that he's made in a long time. So this iteration, 2021 of the Good King Wenceslas, has my stamp of approval. I was actually, so this goes into the events. We missed this event last year or last month, I guess. They had their Christkindl Mart, and of course that was the debut of Good King Wenceslas. I had a couple of them down there, and they were amazing. So, really, really good stuff. If you can get yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Is it kind of like a spiced?
Yeah. So it's got like rock candy flavors to it, but it's not as bold as it used to be. Meaning, I don't think that he was intending on those really, really bold flavors coming through before. This is well blended. Yeah, those Belgian sugar candies are really, they're there, but they're not like, just punching you in the face. So
Excellent.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. And we already know Lazy Monk's one of your faves. What's up, Chris?
I'm just having my next beer, a little Bach wild rice Bach from.
See that again? Yeah. Oh, that can art is fun.
Yeah, he's got a little. Goat's got a little. What do you call that? Like a little party horn.
Bach wild.
Reviewed this beer last week in my column. It's nice.
Look that up, y'all. Andy, what did you have this year that was fantastic?
So many that I don't even remember, to be honest. So I'm just gonna plug the one I'm currently drinking, which is the Working Draft new Czech Pilsner that they have.
Okay.
So, to those who wait,
Yeah.
That sounds like a beer that tastes like beer.
Yes, it is. Very much so, and I'm enjoying it immensely. So this is number 2 for the night already. So
yeah, and Working Draft is great as far as well, they're great for many reasons. They span a whole bunch of styles for sure, but they are really one of the better beer that tastes like beer places in Madison.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, fellas, thank you. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
still a great intro.
I love the 80s, man.
Yeah, you did a good job on that one. So, like the news segment, we're a little light on events this month. But first things first, we have Third Space Brewing. They have an ugly sweater party this weekend. So on the 18th, what is it? Wear an ugly sweater all day long and get a free pint.
That's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Pickle Rick ugly sweater, so I could I could wear that.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to mine. I used to have one or two, but got rid of them along the way.
Old. You're getting old. That's what the problem is.
And then this Sunday, I'm skipping down on our list here a little bit, but this Sunday, you mentioned Lazy Monk's Christmas market that we missed last month, but Giant Jones is having one this weekend. So it's a pop-up holiday event from 1 to 5 on Sunday, the 19th. So it's Christine's Kitchen and Giant Jones for a last-minute holiday market. So you can find some locally made goods there and do some last-minute Christmas shopping.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And then since it is such a light month, I kind of threw in a couple events that we don't normally cover. So some like beer tastings and just random things like that. So Lazy Monk is actually having a European dinner tomorrow night at 6 p.m.
My wife is helping cook for that. So
all right.
Yeah.
Glad I included it. So that is a ticketed event. So I believe you have to go to their website to get tickets for that. So hopefully they still have 1 or 2 left if that tickles your fancy.
There might be some, yeah.
And then in a similar vein, Olifant is having a beer and cheese pairing on Friday at 6:30. So I believe that's they're doing 4 different beers, and then they have a cheesemonger coming in to pair cheeses with each of the beers. So.
They just doubled their draft lines too. So they have double the draft lines now. It's and they did it all themselves.
Yeah, that should be a fun thing just to do on a Friday night. And then on the similar pairing notes, McFleshman's in Appleton is doing a beer and chocolate pairing on the 16th at 6 p.m. So also tomorrow. That one I don't think is ticketed. I think that's just a show up and pay $20 and you get your flight of beer and chocolate flight. So that should be fun if you're in Appleton.
Yeah.
And then you just added this one during the show here, but Valkyrie is doing an end of the year bash on the 19th. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, usually so if you've ever been to Valkyrie, you know that it's a very unique space. Their tap room is a lot larger than what they need. And obviously it would be very difficult to heat that during the harsh winter months. So what they do typically, and they're not closed as long as they used to be, but what they typically do is close down for the month of January and most of February usually, unless we have an unseasonably warm February, which
if today was any indication, we'll have to wait and see.
It's thundering outside right now. So so they close down for at least a couple winter months. So this is kind of like their end of the year bash / get the rest of, and they still distribute beer during the winter, but if you like the ambiance of their tap room, it's the last time to, and I do, it's very quirky.
It's a fun, cozy place.
Yeah. it's the last time to enjoy it for a couple months. So they're closing it out with live music. In typical Valkyrie fashion, they of course don't charge any money to come into the tap room, and you can probably have about 10, 12 beers for about $20. I'm exaggerating just a little bit, but it's not really it's not that much of an exaggeration. It's close. So yeah, it's good just to go and see Ann and Randy, before they close up shop for a couple months, and then
yeah,
have some popcorn, have some fun beers.
Nice.
Yep.
So with that, I think that's it for events. But if anybody out in the audience has any events that they want to promote for next month, let us know, because right now it's just us kind of combing through social media feeds and stuff like that. So if you have like an event that you're excited about, let us know about it.
Yeah, let us know.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. I'm here with Wisconsin Beer Badger. How you doing?
Good. I'm good.
Great. And so we want to talk about Christmas gifts here, and you wrote a piece about it, and we're going to bring Andy and Landon on here a little bit after in a second here. But talk about a little bit about did you share that with me? Or can you pull that up?
Yeah.
You wrote a piece about end of Christmas year gifts, and y'all got 10 days. So we are at crunch time for gifts. So if you have, for your beer fan, your Wisconsin beer fan, if you have any gifts, Chris wants to let you know some things that he's been thinking about.
Yeah,
in a minute.
I am. It is not letting me. It's not letting me share my screen, Greg. I'm sorry.
Not good.
All right. It's this article was born out of many years of frustrated gift receiving as a beer person. And so I kind of, I mean, it was definitely crowdsourced. It's like the things that people think that beer people want, that non-beer people think that beer people want, is very different than what we actually want. I set off to write this story about like, hey, here's a bunch of cool stuff that I want, and that maybe if you know a beer person in your life who you want to give them something nice, do this. But to do that, I had to start with here's what not to do. And I'm sorry I can't share this screen. There's not a whole lot to see anyway. It's just the text. But if you want to see this article, you can go to my Facebook page or my Twitter page, which is twitter.com/WI Beer Baron, and it's tagged right up. It's pinned right up there at the top. So the link is right there. And the things that, like, I had to start with the things that we don't want, and counterintuitively, I think for a lot of beer people, is that we do not want beer, because what we think of as a special beer that's worth a gift is probably not the same thing that's a non-beer geek, thinks of as, like, they probably go, like, they will go to the bottle shop and just buy something that's expensive, or buy something that looks festive or something, or that's Christmassy. And the truth is that we probably don't want that. If we wanted it, we would have gotten it. What we want, what we consider special, is stuff that's out of market, or limited release, the kind of thing that you can't just get. Most people just can't get for somebody. So so that was kind of one thing. I kind of run down quickly, like beer subscription boxes. Those are, I have never seen one that's been good. And like, it's just kind of some bunch of random out of state breweries that are, nothing really special, and probably old beer, and that's
old IPAs.
Yeah, right. Like, nobody wants that. Hard pass. Shaker pint glasses. Oh, I know this person likes beer, and here's a brewery in their hometown, and here's a shaker pint glasses. And it's like, yeah, I've got like 20 of those in my pantry, and I never really use them. So, and really, the shaker glass is just not very good. It's not a good showcase and accentuator of beer. So I skipped that one. And then the other thing is homebrewing stuff. Now, many of us beer geeks also homebrew, but the ones of us who don't, like, we don't want to. We want to leave this to the professionals and the people who are good at it. I have homebrewed twice. It was okay, not great, but I mean, like, I want to drink all the good beer, and I don't make all the good beer. So, if you know that somebody that you're gifting for is a home brewer, that's a different story. But they have, like, this is another thing. When you are way into something, you spend a lot of time and energy and money on that thing. So you probably have most of the things that you want, or you may have a very specific probably high value thing that you might want, but you should ask them for what they want. So that's the stuff that you don't want, right? Anything to add to that? Like, I think I had like this must not have made my cut.
Your own point.
Maybe they cut it for space or something, but like all that like crap that you like put on the walls, it's like beer, the solution to all life's problems, or stuff that accentuates drinking instead of like actually enjoy, like getting drunk, like anything that's like about getting drunk. It's like, okay, come on, like that's not why we're here.
Or a bottle opener.
I actually have a bottle opener on my yes list, but yes, most bottle openers, yes. Okay, all right, let's get to the good stuff. So one of the things is really good glassware. I think that's something that you can, and I have a couple ones that I put on there. One is like these I had specific recommendations with links to all this stuff, but the Rastall Teku glasses, I mean, those are kind of like the Cadillac of nice beer. Thank you, that's nice. But I mean, this is the probably the best glass for really accentuating beer. It's like what do you call it, like laser with the lasers, so that it gets more bubbly. What's that called? I didn't put it in the story, but it's
you mean on the bottom of the glass?
Yeah, it's got things that
I don't remember what it's called either, but
and stuff.
Yeah.
Some type of etching.
Wait, hold on. Oh, it's not even linked.
Nucleation points, something like that.
I just
there you go. Mark said it. It's nucleation points. Yeah.
Nucleation. That's it. Yeah. So nucleated the Rastall Teku 3.0 is the one that I kind of said was pretty awesome. $60 for 4 of them. And this one right here, this is my workhorse glass. I'm down to one of them because the other two broke. It's a Libby, LIBBEY.com. It's this kind of a tulip goblet hybrid. They call it the Belgian ale glass. $30 for 4 of them at Libby.com.
Something about tulips. They always either chip at the base or crack at the stem.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is not how the other two broke. These were dropped or knocked over or something.
Well, I mean that's how any glass breaks too. But
so refreshing difference. Yeah. So another thing that I had in here was like one of those, like those wine bottle chillers.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit out there, but there's a thing called a Cooper cooler that is made for single bottles or cans, and it can chill, like a bottle shop or a cellar. I mean, what I was kind of thinking of this is really useful is like, hey, I can just go down to my cellar and pull out whatever bottle, either a bomber or a 750 or a single bottle or a can or whatever, and it'll be down to the temperature that I want it at for drinking in just a couple minutes. So it's $100 though, so it's like, if I get this for a present, that's cool. I'm never gonna buy it. That's never something I would buy. But nice for a gift. I mean, it beats like putting it in the freezer and then forgetting about it and then it blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the opener. Dang it, I don't have it up here. But the Yopener, you guys know what a Yopeners are? Andy, I bet you know what a Yopener. No.
No.
All right, so they're made from barrel staves, so it's a solid nice solid. This is not actually a Yopener, but similar idea. Nice solid block of wood, and then there's like a little like a bolt or kind of a bolt type head on there,
Yeah.
and it's perfectly sized so that you can open the bottle without bending the cap, which is nice if you have a cap map like that. I know bottle cap's endangered species these days, but and that's got a magnet there, so you open it and then it grabs it and it doesn't fly all over. It's got a it also has a built-in wax cutter, metal kind of tooth thing, so you can cut right through that stuff without having a knife getting out like a pocket knife and jabbing yourself and while you're drinking and having a big bloody mess. It's just, I mean, not that I've ever seen it, but I think about it every single time I do it. But now I don't, because I have a Yopener, and they're like $25. They're made by a guy who I think it's like benefits. He's got like a special needs kid or something. The whole thing is a great thing. Yopeners.com, YOPENERS, like an opener with a Y in front of it.com. The guy's name is Yoshi. That's the story. It's an Etsy shop, whatever. It's great. And you can get $7. It's like $23 to $25, and then you get this $7. You can like customize it with a like a custom engravement laser etching for $7. Very cool. Highly recommend.
Nice.
You guys have never even heard of Yopeners?
Oh
no.
In me.
All Look at
that. The other thing is the other thing I have on here is a cooler backpack. Feel free to buy me a nice cooler backpack, because here's what I'm bringing around these days. Look at this thing.
I bring something similar, man.
Yep, same.
Yeah,
I do the same thing. I mean, it's so crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can get these really nice looking ones to bring to a bottle share, that kind of thing.
Back when we could do bottle shares.
There's a lot of them out there. You can anywhere from 40 to $80 or something like that. We're not exactly trekking across the Amazon here, so like don't you don't need a $300 Yeti to go to a freaking bottle share. Just chill out and get a nice. The one that I looked around at, one that I liked was called the Tourit, like Tour It, but like one word, cooler backpack, and it's like a wear it.
Nice.
$37 on Amazon. Yeah, not bad.
Nice.
And then okay, so oh man, I forgot how long this story was. There's a bunch of books. A couple books that I really like. Tasting Beer by Randy Mosher. This is probably the most insightful beer book that I've read about beer. It's got a lot on like kind of the science of tasting and aroma and all that, how all that works. And has pairings. Randy Mosher is pretty much he's a legend in beer, and that comes through in this book, but it's like real engaging and not egg-headed at all, not like me. The Beer Bible by Jeff Altworth is a newly updated. Hey, there you go. Look at that. It's really good.
I got mine signed too.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
This fall, the new edition, and he's a great blogger, super great communicator on beer, and he kind of uses the styles. The framework of the book is kind of like the styles of the world, and so he kind of tours through that. You got history, tasting notes, kind of glassware, all kinds of stuff about beer. Really good read. I'm gonna skip that one. Okay, on to some other stuff, like kind of miscellaneous. Pints and Panels. I don't know if
yes.
You know M? Yeah.
Yes.
This is another really great beer communicator out in America right now. And she does she's an artist who does kind of like cartoony, really cute, kind of quirky style about like kind of lots of different things about beer, but um, kind of
Here we go.
she's got like portraits of like these great beers. Yeah. She does styles, food and beer pairings, and they're all in these kind of you can see her style there. Pull that up a little bit bigger, Greg. It's very charming. And you can get anything from like custom or like a small prints to like custom portraits, ranging from like $15 up to 100 something. So pintsandpanels.com that's a great example. Pintsandpanels.com, you could check out all the options there.
Or sure Pints and Panels on Twitter too, because that's what I'm showing you now.
Yep. M. Souter, really good art.
Absolutely.
Here in Milwaukee, there's a company called Lit MKE. They make candles, and one of the things that they do is take empty beer cans and beer bottles, anything from like Spotted Cow, Miller Lite, Untitled Art, Guinness, and then they take that empty vessel and make a candle out of it. So you can light up your room with a little Spotted Cow candle. $15. That's litmkecandles.com. And that's it. Okay, so one more thing, beer. I know we said beer at the beginning, don't do it, but if you can let your giftee pick it out, that's good. So, and don't just do Total Wine, do Steve's or Brennan's or Discount Liquor or Ray's here in Milwaukee, or I'm thinking of Village. What's the Village? The one in Ashwaubenon. There's you ask them
local
what their
beer
shop is, and get a gift card from that rather than just the big, whatever the big box retailer is there. Makes a big difference, and the service and the selection, all that stuff is better. So there you go. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, guys? What's your favorite beer gift that you've ever received?
Yeah, let me jump off on that real quick, Chris. I was gonna say, I know that we had a time in this world where people thought that gift cards and gift certificates were tacky, but I don't believe they are in the beer world. I believe that's honestly, that's one of the things that I want y'all to give me is a beer certificate to my local brewery or even my local, mom and pop beer shop. So you hit that was your last point, and I am a big fan of both of them because you're giving me what I want, which is my choice. Because a lot of times when we walk into our favorite brewery, we don't know what they have, and we might just be blown away by something that we taste and want to take 4 bottles of that Giant Jones Belgian Strong home.
Mm-hmm.
And if I got a $25 gift certificate for Jessica's Brewery, that buys me, what is that? That buys me like four bottles there almost. I mean, it's so cheap, it's accessible. So that gives me that. And then also the local, like Chris said, the local mom and pop liquor stores deserve our gift certificates and our money. So if you want to do that, that's fantastic too. Landon, what do you got? Because you're the Christmas guy.
Man, to piggyback off of what you said, like Coffee Grounds here in Eau Claire, not only do they get like a great beer selection, booze selection, so they got great whiskeys and that kind of a thing, but they have a walk-in humidor. So if you're like me and you like to have a little bit of a scotch and a cigar every now and again, they $25 gift card can go a long way. So yeah, that's the deal too. I will do a quick plug for somebody that and it's not beer related, but I'll make it really short. There's an organization called 4dadshudson.org. They're doing booze baskets from 45th Parallel right now for the Christmas season. They are a nonprofit, so all of the the proceeds that they gather from these booze baskets go to various charities that they give to. So just an example, there were 2 handicapped kids that wanted to play hockey, but to play hockey in the disabled league, you need these very expensive sleds that are almost $1,000 a piece. They bought them 2 sleds because of these booze baskets that they do. So it's a very great cause, and because I love Christmas and because I like giving more than I like receiving. That's one of the best things is charity. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Andy, what do you got?
Honestly, probably on the same page as you with the gift cards. But I also have some pint glasses I got for Christmas a few years ago that have my initials engraved on them. I like those a lot too. So yeah, my initials, but
No, right. So
I'm sure somebody could get your initials engraved on a pint glass too.
So personalized pint glasses are a plus for sure.
Yeah.
And let me jump off on that real quick, Andy, and then we'll get out of here. But any kind of like unique beer glass, Chris alluded to it a little bit, but unique beer glasses, not just a straight up pint glass. People who Chris is really on point about, people who aren't in the industry as we are and aren't into craft beers was believe that the shaker pints are what we want, but we'll take glasses, but it has to be unique, like a Tiku glass or I mean, we have these specialty. I don't have one off my top of my head. Maybe y'all do. We have these, places that do those specialty glasses that they're curvy and they're just so really unique. I love those places. What do you got, Chris?
Well, I was just gonna say I gave one of my favorite like branded like specialty beer glasses, period, point blank, is the new Guinness. It's like really heavy and kind of like molded, and it kind of like twists and.
Oh, I have that one.
Oh God, it's just beautiful. Like, I mean, we used to think of the, that kind of the tulip, or not really a tulip, but like kind of that kind of flared pint as the standard Guinness glass. But now they have this like, kind of heavy. It's gorgeous, and I think it's got a small Guinness logo on it. But I don't know where. There's some bar that was giving them away with like pints of Guinness, and I just camped out and drank like 6. I drank like Guinness all night and just went to town. Of course, like I wasn't even really that drunk, but I gave a couple to my my father-in-law, who is a big Guinness guy, and saved a couple for myself too, because they're so like they just feel great in the hand and they look so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. We want to thank our audience for y'all participation and y'all viewing this year. We want to say Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy New Year. Any final words for any of y'all?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for watching all these months, and looking forward to seeing you next year too.
Absolutely.
And that's Badger Beer Hour is January 19th.
2022.
So real quick, Chris, Guinness Gravity pint glasses is what Matt Acoustic 1 says.
That sounds like the right. Oh, is that a link?
Is that a link?
They're beautiful.
Yes, they're beautiful.
If y'all know, you know. Yeah.
Right. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year to all of you. We will see you on Wednesday, January 19th at 8 p.m. Central Time.